Hi, I am about to demonstrate for you the Wait a Minute lab. This lab focuses, and the objective of this is to test friction on different surfaces. I have found this also to be very helpful for Newton's second law. As we increase the weight of the object, the students will be able to see how it affects acceleration with different surfaces as well. So there are multi-purposes. So for this lab, the materials your students are going to need are going to be sandpaper, wax paper, aluminum foil, and I have also added different surfaces for students that need an extended learning experience. You can have them use other surfaces as well, and paper. I forgot to say that. All right, you will also be using a spring scale, so your students are going to be learning how to measure. They're going to learn to be measuring weight. They're also going to be using a yardstick, so this is great for measuring as well. You're going to have 3 books of a similar size for each student. Doesn't matter what the books are, but just make sure they all are the same size. So in this case, I've got these. All right, so just to get you started, you have the resources we're sending to you electronically, but on that you will see that each student has a chart to be filling out as they go ahead and carry out their trials. And 3 trials at least is what I like to do, and then they average as well. Just to reinforce the whole idea that the more they test something, the more accurate it's going to be. All right, so for starters, your students will, let's say, take your paper. The idea of this lab is that they're going to wrap the object, and they're going to take the hook on their spring scale, attach it to the string, and with their partner, they're going to drag the object along the surface. And here's the trick. As soon as they get movement from the object, that's when they stop and record their newtons that it took, the amount of force that it took to pull that object. They stop there. Once they get movement, record their results each time on the chart. Okay, hope that makes sense. All right, that would be the first part, and then they go on to the wax paper, the sandpaper, and the foil. Second part is this. This is where they're actually weighing objects using that spring scale. You guys have been given multiple spring scales, so if they're using heavier books, you'll choose the appropriate scale for the weight. All right, on this one, they're going to measure. They're going to weigh the first book, and again, they tie the string around the book to give the scale something to hold on to. Then you will add the second book and weigh it, and then they'll add the third book, and then weigh all of them together. All right, here's the extension I would encourage all of you to do with your students, only because we have talked to high school teachers, and there's a real lack in setting up and graphing, interpreting graphs, creating graphs. And so for a lot of our labs that we're going to show you today, we have added the graphing to end the lab as a post-lab experience. So there are, your students will also identify independent, dependent, and controlled variables. And then at the end, have them graph their results. If you want them to graph the weight, or if you want them to graph the friction part of the lab, please do so. I'll leave the rest to you and not explain all the details, what goes on the X or the Y, but it is in the material that I'm sending you. Also, a teacher sheet to give you some help as well, and just a few reminders. Thank you. That is the Wait a Minute lab.